I said it last week, and it is all about when it comes to this leadership contest. Is there really me worth focusing on anyone else apart from Kemi Badenoch? Because ultimately, she is going to win this contest. I've kept on saying it. I've been saying it for a while now. It is a fool's bet to bet on anyone else besides her. And unless something like really drastic happens, can't really see her not winning. But interestingly enough, today I had a choice between two articles. There was one article written by a guy that's basically saying, look, Badenoch is like the worst of everything that current Tory party embodied. And if she wins, she'll be a disaster. She'll be a complete and absolute, clown show. I agree. And I thought, not really worth me doing that. So I was having a look around what else I was going to do. And then I stumbled upon Conservative Home and a piece by a guy called Andy Preston. Now, Andy Preston was the mayor of Middlesbrough for 2019 up until about 2023. But he has an interesting past. He was very much involved with the Labour Party, been involved with them for quite a few years, done a lot of good charity work up and around Middlesbrough and up in that area. So he's got like almost a very non-conservative background. But here he is, openly acknowledging that this guy is standing in as an independent, but he has written a piece for Conservative Home, basically saying, hey, Badenoch's the wrong person to be leader. Now, this is interesting because this is coming from someone who really isn't all that overly pro-conservative, but he's coming in to a very, very pro-conservative site and saying, hey, do not make this person leader. So this I actually kind of find quite interesting, and we're going to have a look at what he's got to say about this. But remember, that's the view where he's coming from, and the reason why he's writing this as well, because it wasn't that too long ago that, to say, maybe we'll do a bit of distant video about this in the future, but they've all been, shall we say, making the pilgrimage to see Ben Houchen to try and get his blessing. But maybe that's the video for another time. But yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what this, if anything, comes of this. But I, as I've said before, don't think this will do too much. It certainly has not affected many people's feelings of Badenoch in the comments. So let's crack on into this and see what Andy Preston has to say about why Badenoch is going to be the bad decision of the Conservative Party to pick her as leader. But again, we've talked about that plenty of times before, but it's interesting to see what view he is going to give on this. So, as always, before we do go diving into this, please do remember to click on the Patreon page, the one affiliation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, as always, there's the YouTube thank you button. There's the Pony Club. There is the, yes, I think that's everything as well down below. So as always, thank you very much. Help support the channel with the links down below. And of course, click on the like and share button. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment as well. So let's crack on then over into this, coming from Conservative Home, with, again, by Andy Preston, the title of Badenoch is the wrong person to lead the Conservative Party. So many socially conservative people and actual conservatives enjoy hearing the extremes of identity politics called out. But with Kemi Badenoch a strong contender for the Tory leadership, it is clear that the party is going in the wrong direction. Let's see. So, continues. The mainstream public now craves for a proper plan for safer streets, stronger borders, and most of all, more money in their pocket. Labour's landslide win was partially a result of the public's frustration at the Conservatives for not delivering in these critical areas. Yet the party, and Badenoch in particular, is focusing too heavily on identity politics. Bear in mind, as we've said before, identity politics, culture war stuff, look at what's been going on in America. That now really seems to be almost in its dying embers. That as an argument does not win elections. It is, gelling less and less with like the American voting public, and is seeming to slowly but surely dying off because they made a big thing about it. It becomes big, and then people realize, well, actually, everything they've been saying actually really hasn't been happening. And eventually these things die off. It's the same thing with every type of moral panic. But when the Conservatives have tried to import the culture wars, they have not translated at all. And it's only really fired up a very, very small part of their base. Meanwhile, to the larger voting public, it hasn't gone down very well at all. Look at what Suella Braverman did. The very thing that she did, her speech to the National Conservative Conference. And that, saying what she did there, was prime culture war stuff that she, wielded out. And guess what? She got told, you are not allowed in the Conservative leadership contest. And it shows you how little this really gels with the current party. Not only just with the current party, but with the wider voting public, because I think they became too scared. And of course, Kemi Badenoch, main huge culture warrior, which is why she's so popular with the base, why she has the support I think she does, why she's going to go and win it. But here's the thing, as we've said before, you choose Kemi Badenoch because your base likes her, but what about the rest of the voting public? And like I say, when Kemi Badenoch gets put in the spotlight, when she gets the pressure put on her, she isn't going to perform well. We've seen that happen in the past. And ultimately, the voting public, the more they get to know her, the less they're going to end up liking her. So, back to this. So, Kemi Badenoch, our, of course, ex-business and now ex-equalities minister, initially ran for the Conservative leadership following Boris Johnson's resignation. After coming a worthy fourth in that race, she has now decided to try a look again this year. And remember, she ran on culture war issues. She was heavily backed by Gove. Still, supposedly, he is in the background doing a bit of puppet mastering. How true that is, I don't know, but it is still worth remembering that, Gove ultimately is her big backer. How much she's involved this time, we don't know, but I would still suspect that the shadowy hand of Michael Gove is there somewhere. But I'm sure we'll find out soon. Anyway, back to this. So, following now her very vocal stance on trans rights and EDI policies during her tenure as Minister for Women and Equalities, Kemi was the self-appointed now as the Conservative Party's anti-woke warrior, and now initially thrived in that role. But it didn't really win them any votes. It really did not win them any votes. They've tried this before. It does not really get them any votes. We've seen that in America, that this whole culture war warrior stuff does not win you any votes. And if she's going to be leader, is that going to win her any more votes? Bring anyone back to the Conservative Party? Make them vote for anyone? I don't think so. So, earlier this year, she also accused firms of now focusing far too heavily on political activism rather than delivering on their products and services, describing companies' policies as a, quote, compulsory pronouns and rainbow lanyards as no more than performative gestures. So, here's the thing. I do not think that's just performative gestures. That is workplace inclusion. That is making sure that whoever works at that company feels that they can be who they are. You can look at, there's mountains of evidence out there done by, people who work in that field, that the more inclusive an environment is, the better people are and work with it. Rachel, I don't know if she'll watch this video. If she does, that's what she does, and I'm pretty much sure Rachel could point to you all kinds of resources and etc. that show that is a good thing. And I do not know a company that does not want to have a better working environment, because I will tell you this now, more and more people, and especially as you are now getting more millennials into the workforce, they are turning down jobs, even though they can be offered them, but because they do not like the workplace culture, or they suspect the workplace culture is not as nice as they first thought. So they are companies now really having to heavily invest in workplace culture, bringing more, inclusive environments into this thing. That is only going to benefit companies so much more down the line. But, it's just performative gestures, of course, ignoring the fact that companies will tell her far, far different. But anyway, back to this. I enjoyed her robust challenges and thought that she would become at least a bigger political star. Her push for now a tougher stance on immigration initially offered a beacon of hope that she would be able to win back Tory voters who've been voted reform after the frustration that the party had not moved further to right on social issues. But now that the time has elapsed, what she's offering beyond fighting identity politics. I've said this before. What policies are a lot of these people fighting? What are they saying is going to be done different? They're not. They are really not. You've heard so little about what they are going to do different, what they are going to offer the party different. No one is offering a radical turn. They are just offering, all of them, continuity conservative party policies. That is what they are going to offer. That is what they are going to continue to offer. And it will ultimately be, once again, what ends up losing them the next, general election. They ain't going to win many more people back from reform, because you can't out reform. Even Kemi Badenoch, those people, unless they have the policies, aren't going to switch from reform back to the Conservatives. you know, we've covered this. I don't know how many times in the past. It's going to be a very, very fruitless effort for them. So, politicians, he continues, who now focus squarely on such issues can indeed attract both media attention and the electorate with their strong and emotional appeals. And can they, though? Can they? If culture war stuff was such a pivotal issue, why did the Conservatives not win more seats? Why then did Reform not win more seats? If that's their argument, again, I would very much disagree with them on that, but there you go. Yet, prioritizing the culture wars and identity politics without a clear and cohesive vision for the future of our country can lead to an essential policy areas now being neglected. Yep, I agree. I absolutely agree with them. Identity politics, culture wars, they focused so much on it that they ignore what the actual vision, what actual policies, what do you mean when you saying you shouldn't be doing identity politics? Okay, what policies are you going to do about that? Uh, it starts to fall apart. All the culture war stuff always starts to fall apart the second you start to get beyond their rhetoric. When you start to talk about, okay, what do you practically want to do in power? Now you have power. What exactly are you going to do? And people then start to realize, oh, actually, these people, quite insane, quite ridiculous. Actually, we really don't want that. And once again, this scares people off. This is why that is now basically dying in America, because they know that the culture war that they've been fighting is effectively over. No matter how much they try and keep these embers alight, they are dying slowly but surely. And eventually they will find something else which will light a fire, and they will abandon those culture wars, and they'll move on to something new that they can talk about. They always do. So back to this. So without a clear without a clear future for our country, can they actually essentially lead to policy areas now being neglected? Addressing issues such as the cost of living crisis and even the migrant crisis does actually require careful planning and a long-term vision. I'll agree with him on that. All Badenoch seems to be able to offer are sound bites that make for good headlines, but lack depth. What's more, her anti-woke stance is no more than a facade. Her hypocrisy was revealed early this year when she was easily triggered by actor David Tennant's light-hearted tease when the ex-Doctor Who expressed his wish for her to, quote, shut up in his award speech at the British LGBT Awards about her stance on trans rights. She then lashed out instead of simply shrugging it off, thereby revealing herself to be a massive snowflake. That was true. That was completely true. And this has been true since this all began. These people are they say that it's the left that are the snowflakes, but whenever they get teased, poked about their stances or anything like that, they're the ones who turn out to be the bigger snowflakes than you could have ever have imagined. So it continues. She then took to X to respond to his comments and retorted to the very identity politics she now condemns. She bizarrely referenced Tennant's skin color and gender, describing him as a rich, lefty, white male celebrity before accusing him of attacking the only black woman in government. And such extraordinary hypersensitivity and hypocrisy show her unsuitability for big leadership roles. This isn't the only time this has been brought up. This has been and is, when we've talked about this in the past, many people in the internal Conservative Party bring this up. That if she gets poked, if she gets put under too much pressure, she reacts badly. Remember, this is Kemi Badenoch who got in an argument with the Speaker of the House. You do not do that. But she decided to get involved in it. And it's not just that. There are other such incidents where this has happened and this has made other people worry, well, what if she goes in an interview and it's a tough interview and she gets pushed? What does her reaction end up being? Just remember, if she's meant to be the anti-culture warrior, why then, as was mentioned there, in her response to David Tennant, did she then engage in the very stuff she condemns? So there is a bit of hypocrisy on her on show when she did respond to David Tennant. And as I've said before, Badenoch does not play well with others. That is another thing that has been going around a bit as well, that she does not have friends, she has frenemies. And the thing is, when you are at the top, you become the biggest target. Can she actually take the pressure and deal with that well? What happens, for example, in a PMQs if Keir Starmer pushes her, pushes the right button, and instead of responding calmly, goes off? That may play well to a certain part of her audience, but then how well does that perceive to be the rest of the Conservative Party? How well does that play then to the wider electorate? There are a lot of these questions going around, and that being asked about her suitability for leadership or even big leadership roles has been the question asked for a while about her. So back onto this. So I do respect much of what she says and have agreed with her on some points. Her strong stance against woke culture resonates with many who are conservative with a small c. But that does not resonate with the rest of the bigger, wider electorate. You'd think you might be talking about that, but doesn't seem so. However, continues, her response to a harmless quip reflected now a fixation on race and gender and the hypersensitivity of a student activist. All parties need a leader who is resilient and takes criticism on the chin, especially a Conservative Party that is now short on ideas and identity. And that's true. Which person is bringing new ideas to the Conservative Party? None of them are. Absolutely none of them. And they are probably about to elect, as I've said before, they are about to elect Kemi Badenoch. I do not think this is going to go well for them. I do not think it's going to go well as anywhere near they think. So let's have a look at this. So somewhere else here. So our first one is, while most people would here concentrate on leadership candidates, I'm also thinking about the shadow cabinet that they would probably appoint. Presumably, Miss Badenoch would include a fair sprinkling of Daleks and Cybermen, etc. in hers. Someone else here. Badenoch will until the next general election, which will then ultimately lose. Unfortunately, now the same goes for the rest of them. I doubt anyone knows what the solution is. Cheerful times. Someone says, you are right, though you are kind of wrong about the Tennant thing, i.e. in the current climate, saying that she shouldn't exist was provocative and dangerous. I'm not saying that David Tennant was saying that she shouldn't exist. It's more like saying, yeah, all these things that she was saying, she should probably, shut up and go away about. But there you go. But David Tennant is a very good trans ally. Far more serious is now her alignment with the Grove clique. Having said that, you are right about the need for a coherent response to things like immigration issues, the economy, etc. Someone else here. The membership like performatively aggressive people. They think that this is a sign of strength, so they will like Badenoch's rude and condescending style. Badenoch performs for the membership, but those she is pretending to address never heard her. That's true. It's what I said. It's performative, appeals to certain part of the membership. They think, oh, sign of strength. How does that come across, though, to the rest of the voting public? Because I'll tell you now, when she has done these types of things, it has been small potatoes, like the reaction that the press have given her. But ultimately, the reaction hasn't been overwhelmingly positive. Someone else here. Kemi Badenoch is rude, shouty, and superior, and would turn anyone into an enemy without them even uttering a word. Someone else here. Yeah, she's already been in government. What did she actually achieve, other than making one of her priorities the reclassification of gender-neutral toilets in a government ministry to gender-specific, exactly as Maggie would have done? Not. And then someone else immediately says here, hatchet job from a non-conservative. And then someone else points out a non-conservative is about 75% of the voters at last count. Might be an idea to listen to their concerns. Yeah, I find that really interesting that this is a guy who, been very much involved with Labour, ran as an independent as a mayor. There's a lot of background in doing a lot of like charity work up in the north, but now has come out and said, yeah, Kemi Badenoch, this person you're about to elect, can you not please? I think that is really a really interesting stance he has taken. I think that's a really interesting stance this independent has taken, because as that person points out, the electorate, if you look at it, 75% of the electorate, not conservative. And remember, if you want to win a general election, as I've kept on pointing this out, look at people's voting intentions. 25% of people are on the right, 25% of people are on the left. Who's in the center? 35% centrist. Bear in mind, 5 years ago, you can look back at the other ones the last time they did this, and it was 30%. The growth has not been on right or left, it's been on the center. And that has increased by 5%. That is a massive block of people you've got to reach. Now, the good thing about this is also, it's worth bringing up, progressive policies. When those get, sold to people as not a left or right policy or anything like that, when you don't identify them as anything sort of political, people overwhelmingly like and want these progressive policies. So as I keep on saying, there is a huge chance right now, especially in this parliament, going into the next one, to really push some progressive agendas and get a lot of good stuff done. But we have to sort of fight for it, and we have to sort of push these things. But as I kept on saying, and I keep on saying, this is the opportunity that does lie before us. So, hey, we'll see. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.